Hey everybody, it's John Wolpert and the Baseline crew here once again on our 50,000th Wednesday at noon U.S. Eastern. It's good to see everybody. Um, and yeah, oh, it looks like we have the somebody's got their Zoom or their YouTube on. I think I can hear it. Yeah, no, it's great to see everybody. We have our special guest, Jimmie Lenz from Duke University here today. And we have our awesome crew, Mark Haddle, Mattia Costa, who I think is new. And if so, we're going to find out all about you, Mattia. Anant Natarajan, Sonal Patel, Jack Wiring, and Jack Leahy, the two Jacks down there on the bottom. And so we will commence. Jimmie, it's great to see you. But before we begin, let's find out about Mattia, who's new.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a guest joining the session for today.
Tell us about yourself.
Trying to find out a little bit more the baseline protocol. So I am a business management student in Edinburgh with Margaret University. Focusing on operations, supply chain, and logistics management, really anything that concerns robust stream of data management. And this is where, my interest for the baseline protocol comes in. And I'd like to, address some research to tackle the challenges of data management in big supply chain networks.
Well, you're in the right place, it sounds like. And maybe we can have a little conversation about that. Hey, Andreas, how's it going? And it looks like people are asking for a YouTube link. Is that what you said, Jack? Here, I'll put that up here. And
I'll get that
on the
posted.
general channel. You got it?
Yeah.
I got it. All right, cool. So it's good to have you here, Mattia. And yeah, supply chain is kind of hugely important to what we're doing. Jimmie, we had a class at Duke today. Could you tell us about your program?
Yeah, thanks, John. And thank you for doing that this morning. I really appreciate it. Always fun. As you said, turnabout's fair play. For those of you who I haven't met, I work at Duke University. I lead two of the graduate programs in the engineering school, the Master of Engineering in Financial Technology and the Master of Engineering in Cybersecurity. I come from about 25 years in industry and finance primarily. I started off my career as a trader trading equities and derivatives and kind of moved into the algorithmic space and the more the quant side of things. I've just admitted to people, John, the reason I went into the quant side of things is because I was a terrible salesperson. And the quant side of things, I was fine relating to computers. I kind of progressed through my career and ended up in running a couple of firms and was the chief risk officer for the second largest brokerage firm in America before leading predictive analytics for a little bit of time, and then came to academia a number of years ago, and really enjoy this space. But we're creating something, I think, at Duke that's pretty unique. So the Master of Engineering in FinTech is at an engineering school is one of very few in the world. We're the largest in the United States. Probably the closest to us is Berkeley, and they have a great program there too. It's a little bit different doing this in an engineering school rather than in a business school. And I have taught in a business school, and I think engineering is clearly where this belongs. We do a lot in the blockchain space. In fact, that's what John was doing this morning. He was lecturing to my intro blockchain class. So we teach blockchain. The demand from students is just off the charts. I have a class that's twice as big as it should be, and I could have had it twice as big again. So we offer the intro class now, and it goes beyond the engineering school. We have people from all the schools on campus that are interested, and so we offer it both in the spring and the fall. And then we offer an advanced blockchain class also in the fall that is more concentrated on Solidity coding and smart contracts. All of my students all have programming backgrounds. Their first year students all take programming and software engineering. So that's fairly straightforward for them to enter into those kinds of classes. But we also, because we're an engineering school, everything we do is applied. And so we're building things kind of constantly. So even in my blockchain class, the students are building stuff. They were doing virtual wallets and funding them with test currency and transacting with a class wallet this morning. They will do some simple smart contracts, some multi-sig contracts. They will be building ERC20 tokens. They'll be doing a lot of hands-on stuff. And that's kind of what's expected in the engineering realm. There's nothing wrong with the way it's done in business schools, more the theoretical, but that's just not where most people want to be right now. And so we are seeing a lot of interest in this. And then we're also doing some stuff within the school. So we started last year the Digital Asset Research and Engineering Collaborative. Derek, and we will be publishing our first paper probably in the next week. It's actually being formatted now, so I guess however long that takes, that should be out pretty soon. And we have a postdoc that just joined us to help out run that, and he's just here and just getting set up now. So that's kind of an exciting thing. And then the other thing is I, in addition to teaching at Duke, I teach a course on Coursera, a blockchain course that is similar to, not the same, but similar to the course that I'm teaching right now at Duke. It's a graduate length, so it's 14 weeks long. I do give live lectures in it, so it's not like a typical Coursera course. Students are from around the world, which is really cool. Two of my, I've been teaching this for a couple of years. Two of the student groups have actually moved to commercialize their final projects, which is kind of cool. I don't know if we're going to be spawning a FedEx or something out of here, but it would be really cool if that's the case. But that's a class that's it's really interesting. Again, it's very hands-on. The average age of the student there is probably around 40-ish, I want to guess, maybe late 30s. And again, students last semester were just from I think five continents, which is kind of cool. The other cool thing about it is, again, I'm trying to put things into practice as much as possible. And so for their certificates last semester, instead of giving them certificates as PDFs or something like that, we actually minted non-transferable NFTs, and the students didn't know about it. So we minted those, we dropped them, and they just got an email from me saying, check your wallets. And that was super popular. And it seems that seems to be a really nice use case. I mean, students loved it, and obviously bragging rights, you can put on social media and all that kind of stuff. And schools have inquired about it. But I was telling John that the most correspondence that I've received is from employers, which I never expected. I've probably received at least 100 stories now from employers giving me stories about diploma fraud. And I know there's a clearinghouse and everybody can pay like 10 or 12 bucks and check everybody, but people aren't going to do that. People don't go to the clearinghouse, and that's only for the schools that participate, but people aren't going to go to the clearinghouse. They're not going to pay for everybody that walks in the door. And because of that, apparently there's a lot more diploma fraud than I ever thought possible. I was like shocked. I mean, I could see somebody, kind of pushing the envelope on your work experience or something, but on your diploma, I mean, I would be looking over my shoulder all the time.
My Trump University diploma is no good. Is that what you're saying? I'm gonna get in trouble for that.
I'm not even gonna go there, John.
They're gonna get me. It was just too good.
That's softball. I could take a really big swing at that one. But people making
we need humor back in the U.S.
I think
MIT did that, Jimmie, like back in the Bitcoin days.
They did it on Bitcoin, yeah.
They did it on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yep. Colored coins as a diploma was a thing.
They did do that a few years ago.
Vitalik's Vitalik's first gigs was working on the colored coins, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, with
yeah,
Bitcoin.
and he ran Bitcoin magazine. It's like he was doing Mastercoin. He was doing Mastercoin. If memory serves me right, as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool use concept. You know, for like I say, for employers, I was just shocked when I started, because I just never expected it. That was the thing. It just came out of like left field. All these stories these people kept telling me about, you know, and these were all like, you know, just gross exaggerations of their education and stuff like that. I guess if you're going to go big, right? And so these people were. It's like, why put you know, if I'm going to lie about my diploma, why put Ohio State when I can put Harvard? And so they did.
Yeah, right. We have a question from the intertubes.
Yeah.
Which platform are you using for the NFTs? And well, yeah, embarrassingly asking, will Duke be looking at using Tree Trunk? But
so I mean, we actually haven't thought about Tree Trunk.
I can't see how you would use Tree Trunk for this.
Yeah, that's not. It doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't really fit because these are non-transferable tokens.
Non-transferable, and royalties presumably are not important.
Right. There are no royalties. There are no way to transfer it. It's funny that as soon as we did it, I mean, within like a couple hours, somebody tried to transfer it to a different wallet that they had. And I could see that they were trying to do it, but it doesn't, you know, and he sent me an email right away and said, hey, I can't move it to my other wallet. It's like, that's what non-transferable means. But thank you for testing it. It works. So we had to go in there. Yeah. Change that around a little bit in the NFT. So we use Polygon to do it. You can see it on OpenSea, obviously. It was a cost thing. You know, I mean, we're a university. This was an experiment for me kind of to do this to begin with. And if I would have done it on like Ethereum mainnet, it would have cost a small fortune. And
yeah, we've been spending a lot of time with the Polygon senior executive team, and really like those guys. I like where they're going. Andreas is, you know, with their zero knowledge capabilities, and their roadmap looks pretty good. And we're going out. Yeah, the Tree Trunk .io will be going out on exclusively on Polygon at ETH Denver. So
yeah, I was happy with it. I mean, it worked really well. It was pretty straightforward. So and again, you know, you can easily give people a you know, the link to see it, and so it makes it pretty.
So you put the certificate on IPFS. And then linked it to the token.
Yeah.
So how do you know that? So how do I know that you actually issued it?
Yeah. So what you would do if we, so you can actually go and see the site and things like that. What we will, if we were to do this at a different level, at a more commercial level, you would actually, and you see this wallet address on the site. So you can go to the site, go to our site, the Duke Coursera site, and actually see the wallet address on the site. And so you can do the same thing for any university or professional organization or anything like that. So you can see what wallet address it came from. So it's fairly straightforward. But otherwise, yeah, you're right. Anybody can make up the site, right?
Yeah. Can you prove that you're actually still controlling the keys? Who knows? Right? If you know, it's like that it's a continuous struggle, right?
Yeah, part of the bigger dialogue with like the NFTs on OpenSea and all the API calls being called to like OpenSea in a similar way. I think that's what Andreas is kind of alluding to, and in that regard, I do see a large value in baselining, being able to play here and actually providing the synchronization of this. And Jimmie, to that point, we've actually had surprisingly a number of conversations from a baselining perspective with consulting firms and organizations looking to do things around like employee credentials, training certifications, KPIs, onboarding, workplace management. There's actually been a surprising number of use case requests in that regard. So very...
Jack, could you elaborate a little bit? I mean, none of those sounded like coordination under zero knowledge problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the same way in which the data discrepancy issues that arise and reconciliation costs that arise that we are working to solve here from a synchronization and baseline perspective could be applied to these type of different processes as well. Just for, I mentioned workplace management or HR management. I mean, we're working with ServiceNow and service requests. Service requests encompass their workplace management solution in HR. So we can already start applying it to those type of service requests as well.
Where is the, party A has information, party B has information, need to prove both of them have the same information and then prove to somebody something about that information without revealing it?
What I think would be is, from like a training certification perspective, it's the authenticity that that training certification did in fact take place. If, for example, like an organization was held to a certain level of standards around having a certain amount of folks have these type of training certifications to be certified as, I don't know, a Microsoft Gold partner or something to that extent, I see there being a lot of value to the organizations being able to utilize this to prove that they do in fact have that, and it'll be a
wouldn't that just be verified credentials? Not,
Yeah,
that'd be a very good use of verified credentials, I should think.
John, if I could just translate for you, I guess what you're asking is, what is the need to hide the certificate from anyone other than the two parties, right?
First of all, where is the multiple party? If it's getting a
the
certificate,
zero knowledge proof is what is not there in your opinion, and which
Yeah,
you
I mean,
don't use case.
Yeah, I think
So-
to your point, I mean, most people hang these on their wall, right? They want the world to know.
It's not the certificate. It's the completion of the actual coursework. That you actually did the coursework, right? And that the coursework was completed. So, for example, if I'm a TA and I grade your paper, right? And this is like, it's like, unless I consent, right? That in the verification, it will be listed that, all these individuals verified that. If I object, which I can always do, if I'm a California, it's like I can say, no, you're not allowed to, it's like, who knows what can happen. I don't want this to be out. In Europe, the same thing, right? So you can still, with a zero knowledge proof, you can still have the verification that this piece of the syllabus was actually completed, right? Provably so, without revealing without revealing the underlying details of who actually validated that. So there are multiple ways how to do that. Technically speaking, you can, zero knowledge proof is ZK SNARK is one way. You can also do selective disclosure of the issuer, that's with, and you can package that whole thing then into a verifiable.
The other attribute of baselining, the bus-like attribute, right? The magic bus thing, bringing back to that, would be if you're in a company and say your company will do something for you after you've gotten you've completed something, and you could say, okay, well, when I complete it, there's going to be a proof right here at this location, and you listen for that, and when that location pops, run the verifier, and if it clears, then you can do whatever you were going to do for me as a
bonus, for example,
or something like the promotion or
KPIs. That's where I really see the value in a KPI, like intertwining this with employee KPIs, which to another point is, in a way in which the fraud, you mentioned the diploma fraud, like there's a lot of fraud relative to KPIs and meeting those internal to organizations. Making the business units
performance review, right? It's like being graded on a curve, all this bullshit that is being done. But if you're being evaluated, right? If you're commission based and it's provable, and it's like they're saying, no, it's not provable. Well, no, I'm sorry, here's the proof. I mean, I'm not revealing the revenue number because that's proprietary information in a court document, but it's provably so. I exceeded my quota.
Cool. I'm glad I asked the question then. Jimmie, back to you on this. So we had a lot of talk today with your class. I mean, how did they, I gave them a sort of a hit saying, don't think of blockchain as databases. I mean, how do you think they reacted, and where do you see the baseline story fitting into, this blockchain story?
Where do I see the baseline story fitting in? I mean, I think that, this was a somewhat new concept that we brought up today. Certainly had a fair amount of questions after you left. I think they're just starting to think about it in their, kind of think about it, how many situations is this really valid for? And they started kind of talking
more than the ones that they're thinking about for using blockchain as a back end of an application.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, they're thinking through, what are the practical applications of something like this, where you wouldn't want to, give up information. I think it definitely provoked some thought among them. They're coming from different kinds of internships. Most of these students are coming straight from undergrad, so they don't have work experience. So they're coming from different kinds of internships and things like that. And I think that is, that will provide probably some thought. I know a lot of them will go off and do some reading around zero knowledge proofs, and I probably have more questions about zero knowledge proofs and the math behind it than anything else, John, because that's who they are.
Your colleague, it could be right down his alley because of his machine learning stuff, and a lot machine learning and zero knowledge. There's a great whole set of content on the web you can find about how they work together, solving the Cambridge Analytica type problem. You and I have a mutual friend here in Raleigh who used to be at Epic that works on that sort of thing with his company. There's a lot of really good work where we need to do analytics. I was telling you that, the idea that 3PLs and trucking companies needing to be able to be sure that when a truck gets through the gate, which is expensive at a port, that a box is going to get on that truck. That's expensive, and nowadays it's not sure that they're not sure that they're going to show up and that box is going to get there.
Right.
So they want the data for all sorts of ocean movement and things like that, but they can't. It's a real good idea not to be proliferating that data out, security and all sorts of other reasons. It's a great example of baselining, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are definitely instances where that this will come up again. They were really interested, I think, in this idea of being able to prove something without giving up any information. I would imagine I'll see a couple of things show up, but this was a totally new concept that was brought up, and they because almost all my students are highly quantitative. I mean, most of them are math majors. They usually take things from that perspective and work towards the business application rather than the other way around. We're very fond of saying it's much easier to teach finance to a mathematician than mathematics to a finance person.
My problem is, and it has been this way for years. I mean, ever since I got involved with middleware at all, it's like, what is a use case? I'm like, what is not a use case? It's like, what is a use case for a database? Show me one that doesn't involve a database, right? It's like, there isn't it's not like, sometimes I get frustrated with what's the use case conversation, because I think what they're saying is, I don't know what they're saying, but it's sometimes I think it's a way of blowing off a conversation, as opposed to saying, look, some things are horizontal. Show me a place where in business where you don't worry about giving up data in order to coordinate with other parties. You could throw a rock in any direction and find a reason to use that pattern. It seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's a little bit antithetical to everything that blockchain was kind of offered up to be, right? I mean, it was offered up to be transparent, and
I feel like I let the air out of their tires today. I was like, okay, blockchains, terrible databases, don't use them for that. Put hashes and proofs on them and use it as an ordering service kind of, and a place to manage proofs. And I think that's for students that are excited about blockchain, that's a pretty sad story for them. But it's not unlike what happened. A student called me 2 days ago and said, "Hey, I really want to make a career in blockchain." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, because aren't you in blockchain?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but you know what my biggest problem is? I'm seeking problems. Go find some people whose lives suck and figure out a way to fix it. And then collect the tools that you need to help fix it."
Mm-hmm.
And if blockchain or zero knowledge or any of these techniques are in that set of things that you're going to use, great. But focus on people's problems, right?
Yeah, I mean, the problem solutioning is obviously, I mean, that's where this really comes to pass, is not trying. I mean, that was one of the things when I was in industry and finance. People used to bring these ideas all the time, and it's like, so what exactly are you solving for? And so I always think of things kind of in that perspective. I think the idea of baseline was something very different. It's a very different concept to think about. But there are limited times where you need to hide this. As I said before, like diplomas, I would never baseline those. Why would you? I mean, people hang those on their walls. Are there people that will say, "Oh no, I want to be kept out of it," GDPR and that kind of thing? Yeah, you opt in. You don't opt out. You opt into this, right? You have to provide me with a wallet address. You don't provide me with a wallet address, you're not, it's not going to be done. So there are, so that's not, so that you don't need it for something like that. But for bills of lading, for something that you want to keep secure, foodstuffs, things along those lines. I think most. The one application I thought that would be great for this is actually around municipal utilities. Have you ever seen how municipal utilities get? So waterworks. Who do you pay? Well, you probably don't do it. Amy probably does it. But who do you pay your water bill to?
Yeah, I've seen
city of, you pay it to Raleigh, the city of Raleigh.
Yeah,
right.
City of Raleigh, right.
It's a municipal. Every municipality owns their own waterworks. Do you think that's a little bit dangerous? I mean, so who do you think monitors the chemicals for that? Some guy. It is not somebody with a PhD in chemistry who's doing this. Trust me, it's just a guy who got a promotion from some other department, and now he's doing that. Things like that if they were monitored those kinds of things I think about a lot. But then there are a lot of other things I think on the zero knowledge side that could be done. But I think there's a lot of things that should be kept a lot more secure than they are. To me, this is a great way to think about those. I think about all of the stuff because as I mentioned, I run another graduate program in cybersecurity. I think about all the things that are done there. Now, I don't know how many of you guys ever look at cybersecurity stuff, but pretty much every provider, they sell one thing. They sell the same thing. You know what it is? Fear. Because they haven't come up with
justifiable fear, but yeah.
Sometimes it's justifiable fear, but they haven't come up with anything new in 20 years. They're selling the same stuff they sold 20 years ago, pretty much. And I would say 95% of it involves higher and thicker walls. And I think we learned in the Middle Ages, those didn't work very well.
Well, I think that's where the zero trust, not zero knowledge, but zero trust frameworks are coming up, right?
Yeah.
Say, yeah, you build it inside out, end to end, at rest, and in transit encryption. Never, right? Mark is nodding his head.
I was going to say, data at rest is so much more easily secure than data in motion.
Yeah. But I mean, to me, this, zero knowledge proofs. I mean, for things like that, I mean, this is what should be, I think those kinds of things, people are always looking, oh, how are we going to do this? It's like, it's not another freaking firewall. Trust me. Use the technology that exists today. I mean, I think this is a great technology for that kind of thing. And I work with pretty much, or I see stuff, I don't work with them, but I see stuff from pretty much all the major providers. I've never seen one come up with this. Zero trust, yeah, but I've never seen one offer up anything along zero knowledge.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's
here's
gonna be big. Andreas, go ahead.
So the biggest vulnerability today in cybersecurity is the software supply chain, the biggest one. because I don't need to inject malware into your system. You download it freely and install it and distribute it yourself gladly with a smile on your face.
And you have plausible deniability.
Right. But you're still fucked.
Yeah.
Right. So the key is like, how do you ensure that it was done provably correct, right? And by authorized individuals that you don't necessarily know about and can know about, because they're intentionally hidden, right? It's like such that no one knows who actually does the validation, because if you know who does the validation, then you know where to attack, right? That's the whole point. So you can the zero knowledge proofs and coordination under zero knowledge of the different validation steps and proof of correctness will be a major thing for software supply chain security. And yeah, it is truly harrowing to think when your nuclear power plant in Raleigh does a software upgrade and oops, you know,
Yeah,
it's like,
or they don't even know, right? Like SolarWinds. I mean, perfect
yeah,
example.
no, you don't know. The point is you do a software upgrade. And by the way, most nuclear power plants run on the same type of system control software. Just FYI. By the way, waterworks also very often, very limited set of control. If I control that, I can poison your water, I can blow up, I can cause core meltdowns, and you can't do shit about it.
You know, I'm reminded years ago, you know, I started at IBM on the Java team in '97, and people were talking about, well, Java's great, and people were like, well, what if we used it in nuclear power plants? And in those days, garbage collection, you couldn't control timing, right? Which is kind of important in nuclear power plants, and so it was a great lesson in poor use of a tool, right? Like, no, don't use garbage collection languages when writing code for nuclear power plants. Thank you. I mean, it's probably okay now, but you know, it's much more sophisticated. But in those days, you couldn't control when things got garbage collected. Remember that?
Yeah.
I had actually a thing kind of going back to Jimmie's earlier talk about, you know, credentials and stuff. One thing, because I've worked on 2 use cases that we worked really extensively on it, and this was before verified credentials. VCs had become a thing, but DIDs were something we were playing around with. And one of the features that the client was actually interested in was the revocation. And how can I have a real-time mechanism for revoking a credential? And the use case scenario for this was an identity-based mobility optimized solution that and the use case we used was industry representatives on healthcare campuses. And this is sales reps and service technicians for the equipment. But if you ever go into a large healthcare campus, you'll see a lot of people that are wearing all of these plastic badges on a lanyard around their neck and stuff. And it has different, you know, credentials on those, like, you know, are your shots, you know, complete? Have you had your flu shot? Have you had your COVID shot? If you're in the surgical suites, have you had sterile environment training? If you're on the patient floors, have you had HIPAA, you know, training, and so forth. And, you know, if you are an industry rep, you're going to probably have 3 or 4 or even more of these lanyard sets, you know, that you carry around on your neck. And where do you normally keep them? In your car or in your van? And if someone was, you know, had that compromised, someone, you know, stole it and could walk around the healthcare campus completely unfettered, you know, they wanted to be able to have the mechanism to say, hey, this person's credential right now, we do not affirm. And, you know, you need to probably call security and have them either, you know, explain themselves or remove them from the premises. And that was a big thing, was the revocation aspect of it. Second one we worked on was it was one that was used for a Big Four audit team, and you'll have these teams of auditors within these firms that will be working on a certain client, and there's going to be sensitive data, Sarbanes-Oxley. Access becomes an issue. That when you have one auditor that is moved off of one client project onto another, they want to make sure that they no longer have access or visibility to any of the data, that they now are no longer working on. And so managing that, in a large scaled up organization, had become a tall order.
This is what I love about Mark Hattel, everybody. I mean, I've spent my life mostly making tools. Mark has spent his life using tools to solve problems, and he's dipped in a ton of them. And he, every time we get Mark talking, he's got these, example after example of problem, and you're able to connect. Hey, you know what? If I only had a wrench that had an end on it like this, I could get under this piece of engine and use that. I need a tool that looks like this. But you're focused on, I've got to fix this engine, right? I really appreciate that about you, and I think it's well. You ought to have a whole show of your own, just going on like use safaris, right? This problem sucks. Let's look at how we fix it.
Also, to the tool analogy, make sure you make that tool out of brass so that it doesn't spark, because
exactly
you're a fuel tank.
Get specific, right? I really love that. Mark Hattel, everybody. He's here all week.
So but
catch the late show on Saturday night.
But the revocation aspect, and it's one thing that Baseline addresses, because you have an always on, always available trust layer. You wanted to be able to have that real-time visibility into, hey, is this person, yes, they have shown me the credential, but are they the one that should have it? And is it theirs? And is everything on the up and up? So those were the two, kind of use cases we were working about. And you do have, when you have people that need to prove, any attribute of a credential, that generally involves custody of sensitive information. And if they have the care, custody, and control of this information, should it be compromised, they may be liable. Again, it's, you start looking, from a security philosophical standpoint, this is pretty compelling as well. And
I posted two links in the chat. One is revocation list 2020. So for verifiable credential, there's a method. It's actually in the verifiable credential spec, revocation the revocation status, and there's a method of how to do that, and there is there's actually a zero knowledge way to then prove in zero knowledge that a credential is a member of a set, which is the revoked set. So you can do that in zero knowledge, and I posted sort of like a from an actual example where ING built that proof of membership, where so if people want to play around with code, they can do that. So yes, it's actually a thing, which you can there are obviously different ways to skin that cat. You can just do it simply through a hash and a Merkle tree and so forth. But membership proof and zero knowledge is kind of elegant.
Hey, Sonal, let's turn to you and Jimmie. Keep on firing away. It's really great to have you here, and I'd love to get
No, it's always fun to be here. I miss these guys. I miss seeing Andreas. We Andreas, you and I need to just talk once a week anyway. I do miss seeing you. We don't see each other near as much as we used to. I think it's great to to hear kind of these different ideas. Honestly, being at a university, you're surrounded by people that they have very open minds. They haven't been they haven't been constrained by experience. Their thoughts are still very, very open, and their considerations are still very broad. I think as we have more experiences, our considerations narrow because we've seen things so many times before, but they don't have that yet. These kinds of discussions, I mean, they would find fascinating, honestly. I mean, they really would. I think they would be bowled over by this, and the fact that you guys can come up. Andreas can shoot out 2 links immediately with, well, here's how you do that. Those are things that just don't they don't conceive of. That kind of thing.
Hey, not for nothing, Jimmie. Bina Ramamurthy is on as well on YouTube. She's making some comments. I mean, the 3 of you guys are, the other great Coursera course out there is Bina's. It's had like 300,000, uses or, more views. Probably by now. Yeah. Students. So the 2 of you, I think I've mentioned before, the 2 of you guys ought to spend some time together. And
we probably should.
Add Andreas in the room, and you'd probably have a nuclear explosion of brain power. Bina's awesome. I think like I said, I really love doing the Coursera course because it's a totally different kind of student. I mentioned two of the group projects they've decided to move on to commercialize, and one of the kind of cool things is that the one from our last semester, they're commercializing something it's actually in the legal space, which is kind of cool. But the 4 people that are doing it, one's in Australia, he's kind of the guy leading it. One's in Peru, one's someplace in North America, and one's in Vietnam. And it's like, where else would that happen? Where else would you have the opportunity to, spend 14 weeks with a group of people from that far flung, except by, this kind of happenstance of having this common interest in, I want to learn more about blockchain, and you take this course and all of a sudden you meet these people and kind of get thrown in this mix with them. So I do really like Coursera for those kinds of things. It's my course is kind of expensive, but it's Duke, and I can't really say anything about that. But it is, I like the fact that it costs something. I think that makes people a little bit more responsible about, attending class and participating in those kinds of things. And so it is a class where, there's a lot of participation goes on. Students ask a lot of questions. They've kind of bought their access to you, and I definitely think about it that way. But because of that, you also hear some really, really interesting ideas. Almost everybody who's taken the course is, they work in different industries. They work in consumer products or finance or, real estate or whatever. And they have in the back of their minds, I wonder if I could, there's this thing that's been broken for, 30 years in what I do. I wonder if I could use blockchain to fix that. That's in the back of almost everybody's mind. I wonder if there's an application here that will help me fix this thing, which I don't know how to fix, but I know it has a solution. I would say probably at least 3/4 of the students enter with that in their minds, which is kind of a neat thing. That's cool. Hey, you know what? I didn't see Monique, Jane. Wonderful. Yeah. You've got something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah. So talking about the things that we were discussing throughout this chat. So, as a student, when I was taking the course at York University, the blockchain course, so, I also had this same dilemma, like where to go and how to approach people, like what's happening in the industry. And now that I've been with Baseline for quite some time, so we have created a channel under the Baseline's Slack, and I've posted that in the comment chat. So maybe if new students and grads from university, from the Duke University wants to join the channel and see like how exactly we are proceeding. So, we will be most happy to have the students.
Right on.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Monique. That reminds me too that we've had an influx of undergrad and grad students in the Baseline community who are exploring researching Baseline for their thesis statements and things like that. So super exciting to have people have direct applications with what they're learning in their programs to Baseline and having an inclination to research more about it. So thanks for setting that Slack up, Monique. We should get it more active, and that'll be a good place to connect with all these students.
I'll put that in Zoom or in YouTube as well if you want. Is that all right?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, and so Sonal, let's talk about. I mean, the core devs call on Monday was pretty great, you said, and team is growing. Grant money is in. More grant money coming. And to tie back to Jimmie, also Jimmie's got a kind of a grant program going on. Yeah, Sonal, tell us about the how we're doing on the projects.
Yeah, so we've wrapped up some of our baseline improvement proposals that we started in 2022 with that grant work, and
spent all the money.
Yep, we did happily. And then we have our TSC who will be working on their road mapping to outline what some key priorities should be for baseline in the coming months. So as we're settling down the open issues on the repo that core devs are working on, I think we'll see a big flow of proposals coming in based on the roadmap, as well as anyone is encouraged to add to our Blips repo with ideas on implementations or examples or use cases or any ideas you have for the baseline team that can get devs behind it, or our outreach team putting it together as a story. But super cool to start having a lot of traction in the community. We have core devs from different companies or universities joining each session, which is very exciting. So everybody's getting excited about what's happening with baseline, and we're starting to just do some hygiene and other exercises on our docs and our GitHub to get ourselves in a place where the documentation kind of updates itself or doesn't require a lot of manual work, so our devs can be heads down developing in the upcoming months. But a lot of traction, and super excited to have such a big core devs group.
Yeah, Monique worked on some stuff, right? And Jimmie, your students, Bina out there, your students, you want to make some money? You could double duty, right? I did this when this is in the 80s. I got in trouble, and then I got kudos at the same time. I had 3 different classes. I had an anthro class, a linguistics class, and a neurology class at Cal in like 1987. And I thought, why don't I write the same paper for all 3 classes? So I think that the paper, which was a good paper, was brain encephalization in hominids, something linguistic evolution and brain encephalization in hominids, right? And so I turned the paper into all 3 professors, and the linguistics professor found out, and he gave me a B because he didn't like that I did double duty. But I thought I should have gotten an A+ for ingenuity. Students could. I don't think there's anything ethical problem with proposing a grant project and it being part of their coursework.
There is. So we start to walk a fine line on some of those things, John. Especially for students that are here on visas. We walk a very fine line.
Well, that's an entirely separate thing. Yeah, I get
that. But if you're working with grad students in quantitative fields, they're pretty much all on visas, or at least the vast majority of them are on visas.
All right, U.S. students, start stepping up.
So I was going to ask actually 2 things out of this group. One, if you have any ideas about engaging more domestic students, I would love to hear them. I have tried.
Start in nursery school and make sure you get
I know. Well, we need to start teaching math in schools in the United States. But if you have
my
any
daughter's
thoughts,
killer.
Really,
she's a good mathematician. She's really astoundingly good.
We need a lot more math taught in schools in the U.S. It is astounding what's not offered here, or what's not pushed here. Maybe it's offered, it's just not pushed very much. The other thing is for anybody here, I have students that graduate every semester. It's a 3-semester long program plus a summer internship. But a lot of students take a 4th semester because they want to take a couple of extra classes or something like that. And so I have students graduating every semester is what ends up happening. So my students that graduated in December, 100% of them received offers before they graduated, which was great. It was really cool. I'll have some more graduating in the spring, and all of them are not committed yet. The other thing though is internships. It's a required internship. So if any of you all have internships, And those fall in under the visa status. You don't have to do anything. But if any of you all have internships or you're looking for interns for the summer, these tend to be very quantitative people. They have a lot of skills, programming skills and data skills and things like that. I would highly encourage you, contact me, send me links, tell me who they should contact, because students are always looking to work in more cutting edge things. Yes, they could go work at JP Morgan Chase, and I don't want to say that's a last resort because it's not for some of them, but they would much rather work in cutting edge things. So if you have any internship opportunities, that would be great. And then permanent employment, obviously, there will always be, as I said, we always have people graduating. So those are both out there. But yeah, a lot of those things that might be done like in the during the term, they get kind of precarious for some of the visa students, and they're very conscious of that. They know that what they can do and what they can't do for the most part. They know the Department of Homeland Security rules, even though they change weekly, very, very well, and they know that they can't run afoul of those. So that is what it is.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's true. So, hey, I've got a question. So Jimmie and Bean, if you have thoughts out there on this, is interest in graduate programs on things, on any topic, blockchain and machine learning, whatever, is it a lagging indicator? Or, because certainly with blockchain, if I want to convince a CEO or a CTO or CIO to work on baselining, I'm going to lead with, you're being forced to coordinate with other companies more than ever, and you're worried about giving up your data. It's an InfoSec story. It's coordination, multi-party workflows, InfoSec. No word in there said blockchain. Mm-hmm. The minute I say blockchain and they know that I work for a blockchain company, I'm on the defensive, and they're saying, well, we've had 6 years of bad experiences with that. A lot of them. Right. So what we're telling enterprise, yes, there's blockchain in here, but it's not the lead story. It's I like this. We can use blockchain in everything if we ask it to do almost nothing. Right. It's an ordering and hash management and proof management service. You can use that at scale without worrying about noisy neighbor in the enterprise or in any business that's serious about protecting information. But the minute they hear blockchain, they're like, oh, wait a minute, you want me to build NFTs or something? So, the students are excited about it. Are they going to have to make a transition? Kind of like, I remember, we were all excited about Macintoshes until we had to go work for somebody, and then we had to get on PCs. Yeah, back in the day.
I mean, it's a really good question, John. I think that they are probably, but not like it was when you and I were in school. So I think their ability to be much more dynamic is just worlds ahead of where you and I were at the same time. And so they are looking very, very closely. I would say they've suggested things that classes and things along those lines, courses of study that are, I would say, pretty damn dynamic. Now, are they still doing some older stuff? Yeah, of course. But I think they're not. They probably are a lagging indicator. But where you and I were a 2-year lagging indicator, they're a 2-month lagging indicator, I would say.
Okay, so in 2 months, all the students are going to be over blockchain and be totally into zero knowledge cryptography.
Well, let me ask this in a different way. Right?
Go for it, Anand.
So, why would fintech or MBA students learn about blockchain any more than they take database courses, for instance? Because databases are behind so many business models, right?
Oh, dude, databases are so 2 weeks ago.
No, I mean, what I mean to say is that, why do they have to delve so much into the technology in order to make use of it? I mean, I can understand maybe fintech, but, MBAs, for instance, right? It is in some ways, it's a sign of maybe the immaturity of blockchain or the lack of penetration that people who have to use it need to get in depth into the technology itself, right? It's not in a usable way yet for most use cases.
Actually, can I jump in here?
Mhm.
That is actually, I vehemently disagree with that. because, right? Blockchain is the first technology that marries code and economics at the protocol level. Nothing else exists like that. We're marrying behavioral economics with software. Therefore, if I want to do proper flash loans, right, and build yield farming tools, I need to understand how the shit works, because otherwise I'm going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because I fuck up.
It is a family show.
And that's no, but it's like and not a lagging indicator, but a pointing indicator is I do a little sort of like survey work on the side where people are asking me as a subject matter expert, and they're actually paying me to interview me for like an hour. And I have 3 areas where I get all the traffic, right? NFTs, layer 2, primarily zero knowledge rollups, or ZK L1s, and Web3 infrastructure, right? And
yeah, because that's what's being
slash
hyped.
DeFi. No, but it's like no, but I'm getting it from technology service providers. I'm getting them from institutional investors and VC firms. So those are 3 very different sets that have very different objectives. So it's like
yeah, similar to the customers we're talking about. It's crazy how much in a short amount of time DeFi and new Web3 business models has become at the forefront of their discussion and their endeavor here.
Absolutely. There's a big pot of money that can be accessed. Who wouldn't be into that, right?
Yeah.
Big
Right,
pot
but
of money.
you-
I think it's the big pot of money
Willy
factor
Loman
that they
principle,
like.
right?
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
and-
a bunch of
and-
gamblers have accumulated a bunch of money, and let's go see if we can get them to loan it to
well,
us.
you have a lot of institutional investors, and they're not just looking into buying Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs in Canada. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's like they're actively offering yield farming products, staking portfolios to their high net worth customers. And then we're talking serious money. I mean, we're not talking, you know, we're talking about like the guy who manages Ray Dalio's money, kind of like type of guy.
Shout out to Ray. So we have reached the top of another hour. Andreas, we'll have to have another one of these where we talk about using economics for to deal with the halting function and whether that was a fever dream or not.
You have to invite me back to the economics discussion. I would love to.
That's why the EVM is not Turing complete for obvious reasons, right? You have to have an economic incentive to stop working.
To stop running that endlessly.
So John, just one thing on that, if I could just one word on that. By the way, the databases and servers did power the platform business model, right? Which led to the rise of the Googles, Microsofts, etc. of the world. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a discussion on these things, the intermarriage between economics and technology, and to what extent, people building economic models need to get into the technology side of it, right?
Yeah, by the way, Jimmie, Siberium, Anand's company, has got some really interesting stuff around project management and all this stuff. It's definitely worth taking a look. We are out of time. It's great to see everybody. Any last words, anyone?
Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You too.
Always fun to see you, Jimmie. Always great.
Jimmie.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Until next time.